Hi, I'm Jess.
And I'm Sam.
And together, we're actors from opposite sides of the world, just having a gander.
A chat. We're always going to laugh. It's okay. We can edit it millions and millions of times.
So today we thought we'd get someone in from the music and theatre side of things. So today I have on one of my dear friends, Adam Noviello, who I actually studied with and I used to live with back in Australia. Now Adam has been working for a really long time. He was part of Matilda the musical, Priscilla Queen of the Desert, and just recently was with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. He co-wrote a screenplay called Spencer, which has done amazingly well. And he's just an all-round awesome human. He's also a union rep for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory as well. So we're going to talk about all things COVID-19 and how it's affected his work, how he's staying creative, and just how he's feeling about isolation. So here we go. Hi, Adam.
Hi, guys.
Oh no, my tea is empty.
I finished my coffee.
Oh dear, I've got water. I usually have a tea. Oh, I feel like I've let myself down.
That's all right.
All right.
This is what's great, because you're having tea and I'm having wine.
Yeah, exactly. So Adam is coming to us from Australia. Good old Oz.
Yeah.
It's clear that I'm Australian because I'm just getting all my Aussie friends on.
You also sound way more Australian when you talk to someone from Australia.
Interesting. That is interesting.
I've heard that's actually a thing. Like
Yeah.
when people go abroad, when they speak to their family, they all of a sudden become really bogan
Yeah.
Australian
Yeah.
because they're...
Yeah, I
Talks to
basically.
me like the Queen, whereas...
Yeah.
Yes, darling.
quite, yes.
I can't imagine that. She's from Hoppers Crossing.
The sass is real. I love it. Cool. I'm going to turn the game down a little bit. Ooh. Okay. So, we got you on, Adam, because we want to have a chat about all things, performers and musicals and all those things during COVID-19. So how COVID-19 has affected that. So why don't we start with you telling us and our listeners. That always makes me giggle.
The three of them.
No, shut up. Our three listeners. How COVID-19 has affected you as a performer or artist.
Yeah, I mean, the pandemic sort of all hit really hard and really fast here in Australia. In the literal 2 weeks before the restrictions were all put in place, I was actually up to a cracker of a start for the year. I was on a tour. I was doing Charlie and the Chocolate Factory here in Australia, and we were on a break. We just closed our Melbourne season, and we were on a break. I'd been to New York for 2 weeks.
Oh, love it.
And then I got back from New York, and then I went to Perth to attend a film festival where my film played. And then, so I went into the opening night of the festival and watched Spencer on the big screen.
Which, if anyone wants to follow you on your socials,
please do.
Yep.
Instagram at Spencer a movie.
Yes.
And but anyway, I was in Perth, and it was the first film festival that we played in, so it was this huge sort of exciting thing for us. And so I went to Perth literally for 2 nights, and then for the UK listeners, Perth is one side of the country and Melbourne, Sydney is the other. Just to get an idea. And then I flew to Brisbane and started rehearsals for our Brisbane season of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and it was meant to be a short run. We were only meant to be there for 6 weeks, but we were, in tech, and one day we were all sort of gathered as a company before we started the tech session, and our producer came and spoke to us that, this coronavirus had sort of started to spread, and there were lots of concerns about it. But the first discussion that the producer had with us about it was, it's business as usual, and we'll update you as it comes.
Yeah, that's basically kind of been the vibe, hasn't it? It's like, we'll just...
we'll just keep going and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
And that was one day, and literally within 24 hours, the government announced that the Australian government announced that they could no longer gather more than 500 people in one room at one time, which essentially shut us down because the theatre we were playing there is well over, 1,000 seats. So it was very strange because, we were coming into work every day to, rehearse this show to get it ready for previews, knowing that we couldn't have more than 500 people in the audience, but we were still coming in and rehearsing because they were trying to consider if they could reduce the number of people in the theatre. If they could put
I was
people,
thinking that.
Yeah, well, then they considered putting people several seats apart, but the problem was, I said the word problem, but we were selling very well. So the producers were saying, it's tricky because we had such a short season and most of our shows are selling out. So eventually what happened was within 24 hours, the restrictions became what they were. And then, as time went on, it just quickly became more and more impossible for us to play there. And so we had, it was a Saturday and a Sunday, and each of the boys, we had 4 young boys who were playing the role of Charlie.
Of course.
And they were all gonna get a dress rehearsal each, and then the Tuesday was our first preview. And so we came into work on this Saturday, and the producer said to us, if you can just treat these last 4 runs as the potential last time you'll do the show, do the best show you can so that these 4 boys can have, their show and they can have a show each, because we might not get to play the season. And so we did that. And then Monday was our normal day off, and then on Monday evening we were postponed was the official thing at first.
Right.
And we were all sent home. And so I came back to Melbourne, people went back to Sydney, people went back to Brisbane, wherever they were from, and we all sort of had to hang about and sort of wait to hear, because I think what they initially tried to do was postpone the season to, sort of May, June, because there was an availability with the theatre, and so the whole show stayed in Brisbane. They kept the set there, everything was there. They told everyone who had tickets, just hold on to your tickets, we're working on it.
Yeah.
And so initially I came back to Melbourne thinking, well, I think I'm just going to hang about here for a bit, and then I'll be sent back and we'll get to do it. But obviously, it spread like wildfire, and unfortunately the restrictions became harsher and harsher, and then we were closed. So we got our notice, and that was it. And as sad as it was, I reflect on the fact that, and the way that Charlie and the Chocolate Factory closed due to COVID, and really in the grand scheme of things, we were one of the luckier shows because we had a good run. We'd nearly done 400 shows. Like, we'd done our Sydney and our Melbourne seasons, and it was literally the last leg for us. It was just the home run sort of season. Whereas I've had so many friends who had just started shows that had, I have a good friend who was doing Shrek here, and they had 17 weeks left. Yeah. And, and they were just cancelled. They literally were told, no, it's not happening, and they got their notice. And they barely got started. And so for us, because we had a really good long run, as sad as it was that we never got to sort of do our last hurrah, for us, it was just our last sort of, 4 or 5 weeks that we lost. But it was heartbreaking. I came home, and I remember coming home, and my partner was at work, and I was unpacking the suitcase, and I just looked at my bedroom and looked at the suitcase open on the bed, and I just started crying because I just sat there, and I remember calling Josh, my partner, and I remember just saying, it wasn't meant to be like this. Do you know what I mean? Like, I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be here not knowing what the future holds. It was really, really sad.
I think it's hard because when it's a hard enough situation, the situation we're in, we're told we have to, that there's a global pandemic like we've never seen before. That's hard enough without being unemployed, without feeling secure in our jobs, and without feeling like anything is for certain. Like, that's naturally going to make you feel like you want to cry, or you want to just
absolutely,
have a time where you sit on your bed and just sit on your bed, or whatever it is you need to do. But in terms of going from such consistent employment that you had to suddenly nothing is a lot to have to get your head around, I guess.
Completely, and I think what I quickly realised in amongst that is that I think, you know, particularly with the arts industry and, you know, my other mates in musicals, it was felt by everyone, and everyone's really been affected by it in varying ways, in different ways. But at the end of the day, it is hitting everyone in some way, and I think it's just been so important to understand that, you know, some situations are worse than others, and some, you know, people are going to feel it more, you know, personally than, and that's fine. I think the most important thing, particularly for artists and actors right now and people in the industry who are suffering, is that we're all suffering and hurting in our own way. And the important thing is just to be kind and just to understand that. And I think that's been actually oddly comforting, is the fact that there seems to be this lovely
camaraderie,
camaraderie. Yeah, and people just taking care of each other and making sure we're all doing okay.
Yeah, I think that's lovely, and it doesn't matter. Yeah, sure, maybe you were in, you know, 10 months into your show, 2 months in, or your show didn't start. Doesn't matter how, you know, whether you feel like you're harder done by than another performer. The fact is, everyone is in the same boat. And everyone, that's why, and we all feel different on different days, so it's important to, you know, help each other out and feel like you're in a community that are helping each other, you know.
Yeah, and it's just kind of a one day at a time kind of attitude for me. I'm finding it's just get up and do the best you can, and you know, stay healthy. And
the other day, Sam and I just had really just a hard day. It was like a random Tuesday, and we got up and we were like, I don't want to stay inside today. I don't want to do the things I've been doing the last couple of days. Like, we have a pretty good routine and all that stuff. And that day we just didn't want to. We sort of let ourselves feel that for the day, and then got back to normal life the next day. Well, normal life, normal, this normal life. But yeah, it's you just got to take how you feel each day and do the best that you can do, you know. But and
I think that's super healthy. I think it's super healthy to just recognize, like, no, today I don't want to be in isolation. I want to see my mates. I want to go out. I want to hug people, because that's normal and that's natural. That's what humans want to do.
Of course, yes.
You know, it's not always.
We're social beings.
I'm finding. Yeah, I'm not always finding it's good to just, you know, be like, you know, no, this is the right thing, and, you know, routine and structure, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, some days it's actually quite human to just go, you know what, this kind of sucks right now. And, you know, and I'll get back to my, you know, ISO exercise routine tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. My specific routine for this global pandemic situation, you know. I'm doing air quotes and no one can see me.
Yeah, they don't work on podcasts.
Anyway, I also wondered, in terms of the company you were working for at Charlie, did you feel very supported by the company when they told you obviously things weren't going to... It sounds like they were super lovely in terms of the kids getting, you know, a show each or whatever, or a performance each. Did you feel looked after in terms of that?
Yeah, I think it was really great, because, you know, they were only going off the information they were receiving, and they were literally getting updates every hour. You know, that's how fast this thing moved. You know, every hour. Like, sometimes mid-rehearsal, we were all being pulled on stage. Didn't matter what manner of dress we were in, we were all being gathered as a company because there was another update from the government or the health department or from the venue, you know. And so, you know, there was definitely a sense of, it's kind of clunky because we don't know what's going on, but no one does. It's, you know, we never felt like we were being kept in the dark unnecessarily. It was just about, we kind of just need to turn up and go to work like normal, and just, you know, and go with the advice we're being given, and, you know, and it just moves so fast. I think once we got home and we were all, I think everyone got quite restless. I'm the company union rep, so I was... So I was dealing with a lot of stuff from our union back here about, you know, the fact that we were temporarily stood down because of the postponement of the show, rather than because other companies just got their notice, so they got their payouts and everything. But because we were postponed, we still were contracted and the show was still going ahead. But there was definitely never any animosity towards our company, because we all knew that we were being sent home, and they were working really hard to try and get us back to work.
To get you employed, because it's in their interest for the show to close anyway. So
totally. And the venue in Queensland was super supportive with us.
Oh yeah, they're
back
so lovely there.
Yeah, but we were selling so well that they were like, well, we want this show to happen and we want you guys to come back here. So, no, we all felt quite looked after and we felt very supported. And I think, it was like what I was saying, everyone just seemed to be banding together and going, this is an abnormal situation and we just need to, take it as it comes and work together. It was fine.
Oh, good. Well, given your being a union rep and everything, I thought I would ask how... I've seen a few posts on Facebook about how the government has or has not been responding to the arts community in this crisis. Do you want to give us a bit more info on that side of things?
Yeah, so essentially what the government have done here in Australia is that, they've made it, more accessible for people who have suddenly become unemployed to access, welfare payments. And so in Australia, your sort of general welfare payment is called Job Seeker. So it's essentially a payment you receive from the government fortnightly when you're unemployed and seeking to be employed. Obviously, because this situation is so unique in the fact that there is so little employment opportunity because of the virus, a lot of the sort of steps or the hurdles you have to go over to get, the welfare payment have been eased a lot, which is really great. What the government have done, unfortunately, which has impacted the arts community so much, is they have now announced a new scheme called Job Keeper. And so my understanding, just with my work with the union, is that Job Keeper is a government incentive where they provide money to employers and to corporations, to businesses. They provide this money directly to them so then they can pass it on to their employees to keep them on the payroll.
Right.
And so that the amount that they're giving is obviously not what people would make fortnightly, but it's an amount that says, the government gives it to the employer gives it to the employee saying, look, we want you to have a job to come back to and we want to keep you with an income, and so the government have given this money to assist you and everything, right?
Right.
So, most large businesses, most corporations are eligible for these things. However, the sort of, terms and conditions, I guess you could say, or the details of this JobKeeper don't cover, casual workers, sole traders, and the arts industry, because we work contract to contract, and a lot of the time our contracts are short term. And a lot of the time, an actor particularly might work for 3 or 4 employees in the 1 year.
That's it, yeah.
Between, an actor might do a TVC that goes for 1 week, and then they might do a guest spot on a show that goes for 2 months, and they might do a play for 4 months.
Yeah.
And because they've not worked consistently for 12 months for the same employer, they're not eligible to receive anything because, they're not employed by those people anymore. So, for example, myself as a performer, I was employed by GFO to do Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, and I worked for them for over 1.5 years. But because that contract had an end date, which we've reached, if this JobKeeper money was then sent to my producer, it's not going to come to me because my contract's over. So
a lot of people are struggling with that, aren't they?
Well, yes, because essentially what, the union are fighting against is saying, the arts industry is $1 billion industry here in Australia, and hundreds of thousands of people, and it's not just, it's not just actors, it's crew, it's, television crew, it's technicians. There's so many people employed in the arts industry that don't fall under the guidelines of this JobKeeper scheme. And so there's this massive gap. And so, a vote was put to the House of Reps whether the arts and entertainment industry would be eligible for JobKeeper, and we lost 29 to 24, something like that. It was close, but what was really, and I think what we're so up in arms about, is that we've got a Prime Minister here in Australia, a Conservative Prime Minister, who is going on the record in public in front of cameras and saying that he, cares about all Australians, wants to make sure everyone's got jobs to go back to, wants the economy to, recover from this. But this is a man who, again, like I said, the arts industry in Australia is $1 billion industry. Hundreds of thousands of Australians are employed in that industry. He voted against JobKeeper going to the arts sector. And also our arts minister voted against it.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. So this is where we're at.
That's ridiculous.
So stupid.
Yeah, so there's this horrible sense here that in a time of need and in a time of crisis, and that's what you would call what's happening to the arts industry. It's a crisis.
Oh, yeah.
That there is zero recognition from the government that we are an industry worthy of,
How
support.
frustrating.
And what's frustrating also is that, your UK listeners will know this, is that we recently suffered the worst bushfires we've ever faced.
Yes.
And millions of dollars were raised by who? Artists.
Yes.
Here in Australia.
Yeah.
Like, all the concerts, comedians who put on free shows, there was so much fundraising done by the arts industry. Millions and millions of dollars were raised for the bushfire relief funds.
Yeah.
All those artists, of course, worked for free and are always the first people to be asked to work for free.
Correct.
And now in our time of need, when our entire industry's gone dark, the government's gone, nah.
Yeah, because I've seen on like social media a lot of posts about how just remember, what's getting you through isolation is usually Netflix,
Absolutely.
movies, music, podcasts,
Yes.
staying creative to get your mind, to keep your mind active. All those things are getting you through isolation, but the government doesn't want to help an industry that's helping, people every day.
Completely. There was a suggestion I saw the other day where it said, I would love to see how people would respond or what people would do if right now Netflix, Stan, Amazon, Apple, Disney Plus, all the streaming services, Apple Music, Spotify, all of them just went, turned off, literally shut them down.
Yeah.
People would go ape shit.
Well, yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing that like things like the show must go on, where they're showing music, like people in the music industry are upping the ante. Like Lady Gaga's concert that was on just where she got people from all over the world to perform. Like musicians are the first people, or performers or artists are the first people to jump up and say, "Hey, I want to help. Let's raise money," as you said.
Well, Gaga's raised millions for the NHS. Like she's, and again, and how's she done that? Because she's used her art form and she's used her skill set as a performing artist.
That's it.
There's this.
And
I don't know what it's like there, but in Australia, there's this real kick in the guts from our government that we just don't matter.
Yeah. And we're watching it the other day actually, and the concert, and it was just so. It was about togetherness. It was about staying, realizing as a world we're together in this, and that you're not alone, and saying thank you to the essential workers, which is so important right
it was
now.
Incredible, I thought.
Yeah, it was amazing. In terms of how I just was wondering how anyone can help in Australia, in terms is there petitions, is there donations happening to performers or struggling performers in Australia, or anything going on like that? I've seen a lot of videos of performers coming together and saying we're struggling, or the government, please, help us. But do you know of anything else where people can help?
Well, I think if you'd asked me that a couple of weeks ago, my answer would have been different. I think there was this massive push for people to be contacting their local MPs and to be urging the government to take action to include the arts in the JobKeeper scheme, but we lost that vote. So, performers are eligible for Job Seeker, which is sort of the standard welfare payment I told you about. Mm-hmm. But it's not as much as what the JobKeeper scheme is, and I guess what the real kicker for that whole thing was just symbolically what it said. What the government was saying about how they felt about us. But now I guess the best thing, people can do really in the grand scheme of things is support the industry. I think the best thing people can do is that when this is over, as much as we've all consumed Netflix and everything, people need to go to gigs again. People need to go see their live bands at local venues, and they need to go and see. They really need to engage with arts festivals and fringe festivals and comedy festivals, and go back to the theatre. And I think remember what it was like to actually go and experience live entertainment. But also, particularly in Australia, we're very fortunate to have a lot of great non-for-profit organisations, like here in Victoria, like the Victorian Actors Benevolent Trust, who I'm working with on a project at the moment. They've been established for decades, and their whole, design or, mission is to help actors and crew members who, have fallen on hard times and find themselves out of work and financially struggling. And so, there's also the Actors Benevolent Fund in Queensland and New South Wales that do very, similar work. So there's plenty of places that if you want to sort of, support struggling artists right now, you can. But I think the best thing you can do is, the artists that you love, and particularly for us Australians anyway, I would urge UK people the same, support your local artists as well. And just when this is over, really just leave the house and go to gigs if you can. I know it will be a struggle at first, but it's important, I think, that people go out and experience it again.
Well, I think I hope that's sorry to cut you off there. I hope that's the positive that will come out of this, is that people will be looking for places to go. They'll be looking for fun things to do, having, maybe not a heap amount of money because of isolation, but looking to go back to seeing music and going and spending their money that way, hopefully, is how I hope things will happen. Because people will be looking for culture and music and art, and will be. Well, I had an experience, speaking of The Show Must Go On, I watched the Phantom of the Opera concert the other day when it was on there, and I was sitting watching it, and my partner, bless his heart, who's not a performer, came out and found me on the couch and inconsolably crying. Aww.
And I was like, I said, I always loved that show, but I was sitting there going, I'm sad because I want to sit in a theatre again. I don't want to watch this sitting at home. I want to go, and I just really will never take for granted again just being able to sit in a theatre with humans in the dark and watch something come to life in front of me.
Right?
And I was watching that show on YouTube, and I was just like, I'm enjoying this so much, and I want to go and see it,
Well, Sam and I actually got all dressed up for the theatre and put a nice outfit on, and I did my face for the first time in isolation. And we got dressed up, and we FaceTimed one of my friends here in the UK, and we did drinks before the show, and then we watched the show, and we debriefed afterwards. I highly recommend. It was the best, one of the best things we've done, because it's like you're going somewhere, you're making something a bit different in isolation, so that you can feel.
Oh my God, I'm absolutely doing this. I was going to watch Love Never Dies on the Show Must Go On screening, and I'm going to put on a frock and put on a frock,
a cheeky lip, get a wine in hand, and just feel a bit like you're making. That's what we try and do, especially, is make our weekends like we work during the week, and then our weekends become, for stuff like that too. The other day, sorry, go ahead.
You go. I was just going to say, we've got a little routine here where every Friday night we call it party night.
Yeah.
And so Friday night is the night where we ignore our tight budget, and we buy the good cheese and the quince cakes, and we get a good bottle of wine, and sometimes we really splurge and we get Uber Eats. That's our one night of the week where
we do that too. We do one night a week
where
we order food in, because that's date night is what we call it. Because we can't afford to order food in every night. That's not a part of we don't have the income for that. No, we don't. And so we order food in, we make it a bit special. The weekend just gone, we did we made high tea for ourselves. So we did a little high tea. So it's lovely, and doing quizzes with friends and stuff like that. That's always fun. I'm actually putting one together for my family this weekend, so that should be fun. Actually, yes, I wanted to ask you. I know you're a massive advocate for mental health, and I just wanted to ask you how. We have discussed how isolation can be up and down, and what you've been doing to look after your mental health on some of those harder days, I guess.
Yeah, it's up and down. I think I said it earlier, but I've kind of just tried to take a really sort of one day at a time approach. I haven't felt it to be very healthy for me to try and go, right, this week's going to mean this. I'm like, no, it's going to fluctuate, and that's okay. and also the adjustment of being at home, and my partner, like I said, is working from home, and the fact that that's abnormal for him too, and he is used to going to a central place every day to do the work, and the workplace and the home place are separate.
Yes.
And so now that those things have combined for him, and I have, come home and had to deal with sort of the sadness of, my show closing early and the prospect of my next show not going ahead. And so I think it's a balancing act, and there are days that are tougher than others, and I'm just trying to I'm very lucky. I've got a very supportive partner, but I think for myself, it's about just, not judging myself when I have moments when I really just fall into, I really hate this, because I think it's really, really fine to accept that, and it's really fine to acknowledge, this isn't normal and this isn't great. No one's happy sometimes.
Well, you're not happy all the time, are you? And being stuck inside, usually you're able to go, I don't know, for a walk that's longer than an hour, or you're able to, take yourself off to the movies or something just to give yourself some headspace. And now your headspace you have to find within your four walls. So
totally. And I think, I'm one of the lucky ones. I'm very fortunate to have like I said, a really supportive partner, and I have a home, and I know there are so many who are going through this who have, children or dependents, and that are, struggling far harder than I am. So I think it's also about recognizing my privilege sometimes, but also it's about going, this isn't normal, and it's scary. But it's just about going, right, I'm just going to get up today and do the best I can, and I'm going to be healthy, and I'm going to, support my partner who's, working from home and having his own struggles. But I think it's just, like I said, it's one day at a time, and it's trying really hard to not, beat myself up if, low moments come on. Yeah.
Are there any rituals that you found that have been really helpful, during this time?
Yes, it took a little while, but I'm actually, every single morning I get up and the first thing I do is I leave the house and I go for a walk.
Okay.
Because as long as we socially distance and I don't, I'm not out for too long, I'm allowed to do that. And I live right near the Botanical Gardens here in Melbourne. So
lovely.
I get up and I catch that really great early morning fresh air, and I just go out for half an hour and I just breathe fresh air, and I just remember what it's like to have the sun on my skin.
Yes,
and
lovely.
I'm finding that's actually a brilliant start to my day, because it's just remember, and it's moving my body and going. And I run the gardens.
Oh,
most
nice.
of the time.
Very nice.
It's gorgeous. It's just I'm finding it's a really good start the day, nice and refreshed, and then I can sort of, take the rest from there. So there's that little ritual.
That's great.
And also, my partner and my housemate and I, we all, once they knock off work at 5 o'clock, we all do like an online exercise class together. So we have a moment of going, work's finished, let's do some quick exercise, get our heart rates up, and that feels really good. So
good.
Little things like that are sort of getting us through. Yeah.
I like the getting up and going for a walk in the morning straight away. That's lovely, actually, because I think it's easy to forget what it's like to be outside without restrictions. So I guess if you do it first thing in the morning, it's like, this is me. This is what it's like to be, outside normally, just to make your body feel like you're not in isolation. I guess it's smart.
100%.
What have you been doing to keep yourself creative at home? Because I know I've lived with you before. Adam and I used to be housemates, and we used to constantly be singing around the house. And I was in one of Adam's cabaret shows, and so we'd rehearse at home, and it was wonderful.
Mate,
so
the best of times. They were the best of times.
They really were.
To be honest, back to the mental health thing, that was something I really struggled with at first. I felt like there seemed to be this real urgency within myself to take advantage of this isolation to be creative. And I think, and I know myself well enough that I know that I actually creatively don't thrive when I'm allocated time to be creative. I find that I just need to let it come on. But it's when I first got back, I definitely had this moment of like, no, this is not a time to sit on my ass. This is a time I should write, I should create, I should do things, because, I'm being gifted this time where I'm just at home.
You sound like me.
But I actually, yeah, right. And so then I actually found that to be really disheartening when that wasn't fruitful.
Yeah.
Because I was going, well, I'm at home. I have nothing to do. I should be doing something. But, forced creativity, I don't know how it is for other people, but for me, is never productive. And so, I really had to kick myself out of that.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't good for my head. But as time's gone on, sort of, quite organically, things have come on. Like there was a project I really wanted to get started on at some point this year that, once I allowed myself to, take a moment and take a breath, that the juices started flowing there, which was very exciting. And then, I'm putting together this YouTube event, which I'm sure we'll get to hopefully.
Yes.
But and so, little things like that. But I'm trying really hard to not force myself, and I'm trying really hard to not, put pressure on myself because, I find for me personally that doesn't get me anywhere, or it I don't create anything worthwhile.
Well, I just think also because you just come out of Charlie, like in most situations when we finish a job or a contract, you've been working very hard for a certain amount of months, usually like 12 to 14 months or whatever. And you'd usually give yourself a break. You'd go on holidays or and you haven't, your holiday is now being in isolation. And so feeling like you need to get all this stuff done and isn't necessarily what you'd normally do at the end of a contract, right? Well, completely, yeah. I think, I had an idea of what this year was going to look like, and then I had a couple of months after Charlie free, and like exactly what you said, my initial instinct after Charlie was to go and have a break because I'd been working for so long, Yeah.
So, there was something quite clunky about coming home at first and going, oh, right, I should be creative right now. But I'm like, well, no, I should be in Brisbane working,
Exactly.
It was really quite strange. But I, you know me well enough, particularly when we live together, I find that I always find myself getting creative on my own projects when I'm working.
Yeah.
And when I have no time, we just...
Yeah, well, that's it, isn't it?
It's that whole, what's that saying? If you want something done, ask a busy person.
Yeah, true. But yeah, I think we've talked about it before on the podcast, feeling like I'm quite like that. I like to try and feel like I've got a million things that I'm doing, and if I don't have that happening, I'm not achieving enough.
Which is just not true.
I know, it's so silly. It's
so and it can become quite self-deprecating,
Yeah, or you get so run down, and you like get to the one afternoon, you're like, I am exhausted, and you're like, what have I been doing? I've just been putting pressure on myself. That's what I've been doing.
That's what I've been doing. Yeah, exactly.
But, yeah. Anyway, tell us more about this YouTube cabaret you have coming up. What's it called? Tell us more.
Yeah, so it's the show is called An Evening with Adam Noviello, and it's again back to our trying to find ways to be creative. So this is a show I did last year, and when I was my film project Spencer, we crowdfunded for post-production because we'd shot the film, and funding for films is so hard, and funding films is costly, and so we had a feature film to finish, and so we put together this crowdfunding campaign, and one of the rewards for contributing to the campaign was a ticket to a show, right?
Yes.
And so the funny part of the story is I remember talking to my manager about it, and who co-produced the film with me, and we were talking about, and he was like, why don't we say if people put in this amount of money, they'll get a ticket and you can put on a show for them? And I was like, that's so wanky, like people won't go for that. Well, we sold out so fast, and I was like, oh shit, now I've actually got to put on a show.
Yeah,
for these
because
people.
you're fab, darling.
So,
if I was in Australia, I'd be there in a second, doll.
I was like, okay, cool. So I was in Sydney doing Charlie at the time. I was like, right, well, when I get back to Melbourne, I'm going to have to put this gig on because I've got 80 people who want to see a show. So we put this show together. It was in this really, really great venue in Fitzroy, and and it was a really fun night. And it was just going to be a one-night only thing. It was a great set list. I had Clee Morgan performed and Andy Johnston performed, and it was a really great show. It ran for about an hour and 20, something like that. And then we just filmed it for archival. It was just like, maybe at some point we'll look back on this, and if we're putting another show together, we can use elements of it. I'm not sure, but it it was literally just a one night only thing, and the whole show was for these people, these people that had contributed to the campaign. That was the whole reason we did it. And and so then I was sitting at home during this whole thing right now and trying to work out how I could contribute and how I could, put some content out there that, I'm really proud of, but also how I can sort of try and give back. And so I reached out to the Victorian Actors Benevolent Trust, which is the one of the organisations I spoke about earlier, and just said, look, this is what I'm wanting to do. I think I could stream this show online, and then hopefully, people could, while they're watching the show, as a way of sort of buying a ticket. I just did the quotation marks again. We're on a podcast. Donate and sort of help the trust and help, people in the industry who are, going through really hard times. And so that's what we're doing. So, Thursday the 23rd, 8 p.m. Australian time, or Eastern Standard Time, Act 1 lands on YouTube, and then a week later, Act 2 will land. And people can just jump on YouTube and stream the archival of this really great gig that we put together. And then hopefully, it's not compulsory to donate. If you'd like to just enjoy some cabaret from home, you can. But if you can, while you're enjoying some cabaret from the comfort of your own home, you can put some money into the GoFundMe link in the YouTube video and sort of help out of work and struggling performers right now. So that's
I love
what we're
that.
doing. And
so for those in the
really
UK, that is 11 a.m. our time, and it's
yes.
What date was it again?
The 23rd, so 23rd of April, and then the 30th. And so if they look, it's an awkward time for you guys over there, but that's when the video will land on YouTube, but it will remain on there for the week after.
Oh,
as well.
great!
So
and I highly recommend Adam. I reeled off your amazing credits at the start, but I just think that he's a phenomenal human and got a wonderful, wonderful voice and talent. And I think please go give it a watch if you've got time. If sitting there with your coffee and you think you're going to listen to maybe you would usually listen to a podcast, perhaps just turn on YouTube and have a listen.
Thanks, darling. I appreciate that.
Of course.
It's a fun show. It's a cute little show, and it's Act 1 goes for about 35 minutes, and Act 2 goes for about 45, and they're great tunes, and it's a camp old time. So hopefully people can tune in, and I just hope we can do something for the trust and make a bit of a difference with it. It'll be nice.
Sounds amazing, and I will be tuning in. That's for sure.
I can't wait for you to see it, because last time I did cabaret, you were in the show.
I know. It's like, it's all right. You upgraded after that, so it's fine.
That's right. Yeah.
So next, I haven't sent you any of these questions. We do what's called the COVID quiz. Okay, it's just a bit of fun. They're just silly little questions to have a bit of a laugh, really. Okay, so question number one. Would you like to?
Yeah, we'll do it. Here we go.
Sam?
If you could be stuck with anyone in isolation, who would it be? Who would you choose?
Ooh, I mean, I can't not say my partner, but I am stuck with him, so I'm not someone else. But if I had to pick, it would be him. But like anyone in the world, famous, dead or alive.
Yeah, my brother said Chris Hemsworth, so you can say whoever you like.
I might say that, but that's such a crazy question. I would love to be here with. I mean, I instinctively want to have like Elizabeth Warren here right now. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like sitting here with her, like while Donald Trump's while America is a train wreck, and having like a Democratic, a potential Democratic nominee would be here. It would be really cool. I feel like we could chat all day.
Or maybe
that's my instinct.
Yeah, that's fair, and that's a great instinct. I was just thinking maybe someone like Nigella Lawson, just to cook me food.
Oh, that's genius.
Oh, yeah, that's such a good...
outside the box.
I just thought of that, actually.
But also, like, whenever I get that question of, like, if you could interview anyone dead or alive, who would it be? I'm like, I would love to talk to Judy Garland. I just want to chew her ear off.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
I want every story about every person, and I want her to spill the tea on everyone in the golden age of Hollywood. You know what I mean? So
of course, yes. Well, let's say that. We'll say Judy as well is on that list. Done. All right, what's next?
Okay, here we go. What's the one food that you can't live without?
In isolation.
In isolation. Well, we're eating a lot of pizza at the moment.
Yeah, you are. Get it.
Yeah. I'd have to... Well, actually, no. What I will say is that because of the time of year it is, I've been, like, throwing back hot cross buns like crazy. So
we didn't actually have any, did we? We really missed out.
I can't believe we didn't.
Okay, I'm going to be honest with our 3 listeners. I tried to make what was called hot cross bun muffins, and they failed royally. They ended up being what we're now calling rock cakes.
Yeah. I did my bit and pretended. I was like, yeah, Jess, great.
Yeah, he did. And I knew he was lying.
That is what every partner should do, Sam.
So lying.
It's all right, I was well aware. It was so funny because we were both cooking at the same time. But Sam was making something much more conventional than what I was trying to make. We were making carrot cake.
Yeah.
And I was making hot cross bun muffins.
Yeah.
And his cake definitely came out way better than mine. And the grumpiness that came, it was just like I was like I wasted those ingredients on that bad food.
Yeah, buckwheat flour was very expensive, you know.
Yeah, because I tried to use buckwheat flour, which is where I went wrong. But anyway, I was just so grumpy afterwards. And then there's Sam with his amazing carrot cake, and I'm like, well,
you were mourning the loss of your ingredients.
Well,
I
was. Oh, what a mess. Anyway,
it was a mess. Yeah.
Next one.
Is there a show you've binge watched in isolation?
Yes, Unorthodox.
Oh, I've
okay.
not. Is that on Netflix?
It's on Netflix. It's 4 episodes, and Josh and I watched it in an evening. Like, we literally smashed it.
Okay, well maybe we're gonna have to smash that one out.
Yeah.
Yeah, do it. It's excellent. I also watched another Netflix docuseries, The Ted Bundy Tapes.
Okay.
It's like I think it's called Conversations with a Killer or something like that. It was this journalist went in and interviewed Ted Bundy before he was executed. It's fascinating. I watched that in like a day and a half.
Have you watched Tiger King?
Well, yeah, and I've watched Tiger King like everyone else, but I felt like a basic bitch. So.
Yeah, me too. That's fine. I tried to avoid it for so long, and then I just gave in. So
I know, I gave in too. I was like, well, everyone's talking. I need to know what the.
There must be a reason. So
yeah, and it was excellent. I was like, I am addicted to this, and I feel shit about it, but it's great.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, exactly. All right, next one.
It was so good.
So the best thing about isolation, and then the hardest thing about isolation.
I think the best for me, like, you know, it's actually been a rare moment where I've been able to rest, to be honest. I think I'm very used to going, if I have like some time off or I have a day free, I'm like, I need to fill it with something. I need to do something. Whereas what it's actually done is forced me to just sit down and unwind and rest because I haven't for so long. So I would say that, the good part of it has been actually feeling like I'm recharged and, you know, and back to 100, which is cute. And what was the other one? What's
the hardest thing
about it? Well, I have a 2-year-old goddaughter, and I want to cuddle her so bad. And her and her family and her siblings, bless them, they FaceTime me regularly, and I speak to them as much as I can. But you know, she doesn't know what's going on. She just you know, gets on the phone to me and just says, Adam, where are you? And that breaks my heart. What's hard is hugging her, but just, hugging people. I just want to see my friends and my people and my humans and just hug them again.
I know. And it'll be that lovely moment when we can do that and how special that will be. And I think that's the other positive thing is that we all will realize how time together is so imperative.
Oh, I don't think we'll take it for granted again. That's for sure.
Never. So that will be lovely.
Yeah,
it will be lovely.
All right, this is a fun one.
Okay, this is Jess's favourite question. Theoretically, they've started restricting time in the supermarket, so you've got 5 minutes to go in and buy what you want and pay. What are you buying?
So you have to get in and out, shop, buy, and exit in 5 minutes.
Yes.
What are you getting?
Okay. I'm a vegetarian. I go straight to the plant-based section and I buy heaps of plant-based mincemeat and burger patties and sausages. And then I go and I run and I get eggs, and then I would literally just get some treats because I can't live without Tim Tams. British people will know what they are, but they're delicious.
No, they should know.
And then I'd probably just get a shit ton of almond milk and and toilet paper, and then go, I can live off this. And just if I've got any time remaining, just get my favourite vegetables. I'd get some mushrooms, I'd get some tomatoes and capsicums and zucchinis, and then dash to the checkout and then run and panic.
That literally sounds like us. Like, okay, so I'm also vegetarian. Well, I'm vegetarian because
I'm an isolating vegetarian.
He's an isolating vegetarian because he's living with me. And so literally we get a vegetable box delivered because it's easier than having to try and get it all at the shops. And the day that the vegetable box comes, it is like Christmas. Oh my God. Seriously, like Sam's like, I can never compete with the vegetable box.
I like to think I'm quite an exciting person, but compared to a vegetable box, I've got nothing.
Seriously.
Hey, but Sam, now you know, from now until forever, if Jess, like, you want to surprise her with something and make her day, just buy vegetables.
Yeah,
like,
mate.
You now know.
Last week we got a pomegranate. This week we got a leek. It's just so exciting. And this week it came early.
It's the first time that's been a good thing. Yeah.
I love it. So if I ask you these questions back, it's like, what's your, top thing with isolation? The veggie box comes every week, and it's the best thing ever.
Pretty much.
Yeah, we've not got cooler.
No, I'm very uncool, but I'm okay with it. Okay, next question.
Right, where are we going? What's the first thing you're going to do when you get out of isolation?
Ooh.
I think I will drive down to the peninsula and see my goddaughter. I think As soon as I can, without guilt, go visit people, I'll go straight down there and hug her and her siblings, who are like my niece and nephew, and I'll give them big hugs and tell them I love them and tell them I miss them.
Oh, babe.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
It's gonna make me cry.
That's definitely step one, I think. Yeah, for sure.
All right, I think we're on our last one.
Yeah, the last one.
Okay.
So we've kind of covered it.
Have we?
It's something you do every day, kind of a ritual that's helped you get through.
Okay. Yeah,
I have others. So I've talked about one. My other what's actually been cute about isolation is that Jess will know this about me. I don't really cook. It's not really a thing of mine. But because my partner, bless his heart, is still working, I was like, well, I'm going to become a cook while I'm in isolation because this is the time I've got. So another ritual that I have is that every day I get up and I go, right, what delicious thing could I possibly come up with and cook for dinner? And then if I don't have it all here at home, I go to the supermarket and I get everything. But I kind of try and make it my mission that every day I cook my partner and I a really, really great home-cooked dinner, because it's not been my gig to cook home-cooked dinners, and now it is, and I actually really like it.
I love that, because I'm the same. Like, I cook a little bit, but since just before isolation, I decided I really wanted to become super plant-based and cook most of what I eat from scratch. And then getting into isolation, it's like, well, I have no choice now.
Or no excuse.
Yeah, exactly.
I have no excuse not to cook dinners because my excuse, I'm always on the run. I'm always at work.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, no, I don't have an excuse now. Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah, it's lovely. So it's nice to sort of have a challenge of, okay, what have I got and what am I going to make from what I've got in the house? My friend has become like, she's made her own recipe book. She sent it to me from having the time to be able to cook from scratch and cook at home, which is so nice for people. Actually, I have one more question. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's probably the question of the podcast.
Oh, no.
Okay, if you were to eat an apple, how would you choose to eat said apple?
It's so stressful.
Shall I give you
as in my pattern of where I would put my bites?
Oh
no! as in, if you could choose, like, either to eat an apple with a knife or to bite it, what would you pick?
Oh, I'd bite it. Absolutely.
Yes.
No.
Okay, so that's
our sorry. Have I contributed to an argument between you?
Well,
basically,
yes. It's,
there's a tally scratched into the wall who we can find.
Well, yeah. so we're currently
Grab it in
asking.
my hand and bite it. Isn't that what everyone does?
That's what I thought until I
no,
met
you see,
Sam.
Well, see, this is it. I use a knife and cut it and then put the bits that I've cut in my mouth.
Yeah, which
Apparently some other people do, but apparently not as many as the people that bite it.
well,
I feel like only like rich evil villains.
yes, you're a rich evil villain. I love it.
Yeah, that's true.
That's so exciting for
Normal
me.
people don't do that.
I should film it and put it in my showreel.
Oh, I'm in a relationship
that's
with
right.
a rich evil villain. I love it.
Hey, highlight the word rich, babe. No one's got jobs.
Yeah, sorry. Evil villain with evil penniless villain.
If only that was all it took. Yeah.
That's hilarious. Well,
So good.
thank you, Adam, for coming on and chatting to us about such an amazing topic, because I think it's really important that we do band together as performers. And for people that maybe don't know as much about what's going on, even in Australia or worldwide, for performers, I think it's really nice to have a chat about those things. So thank you so much for coming on.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys. It was nice to chat to you. I miss you.
Oh, I miss you. Don't even start me. But I'll hopefully be home, well, at some point.
At some point. Well, that's the thing. I had that break, babe. I was like, maybe I'm going to come to the
I
UK
know.
and do a Europe summer. Like, it was kind of on the cards. Anyway, we'll see each other. It'll happen.
It'll happen. Anyway, thank you so much, Adam, and we love you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Love you guys too. Bye, guys.
Bye.